Cool, thanks, Emma. So I'm going to share my screen, folks. Let me know when you can see it. Can everybody see the presentation now?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Cool. So thank you very much for having me. As Emma said, I was president kind of at USU back in 2014-15. Kind of after that, I've gone on to work as a management consultant, and I focus predominantly on sustainability, so helping both private and public sector organizations with being more environmentally and socially sustainable. And I also do kind of a lot of work around organization transformation. So that's a whole load of buzzwords, but basically I go in and help organizations with setting their strategy around sustainability and then making it happen. So helping the organizations put in the right processes and structures to make it work. In terms of the session, I'm going to run you through kind of some of the key bits around project management. So a lot of my work is focused on defining projects and then helping kind of them progress successfully. While a lot of the content is relevant to those who are going to be running election campaigns, the kind of the stuff that we'll go through will be applicable to any context around project management. And just to kick us off, if there is if you have any questions as we go through, please raise your hand on the thing, and if not, just shout, and I'm answer questions as we go. Alternatively, at the end there will be kind of some time to ask more detailed questions. But yeah, is there anything that anyone wants to ask up front, or are people happy to kind of go through? Cool, I'll take that as people are happy. So two big outcomes. We're going to be looking at how we define projects, and we're going to be looking at how we manage them. So two key sections. So to kind of start off, just a kind of a brief thought about project management. Project management is very different things to very different people. And what I mean by that is, for some, it's a particular job title where they are accountable for kind of running a particular project. For most other people, it's just about how you get things done. And that's what I'm going to be kind of taking forward today, is more about, well, how in any context can you think about things in the right way and use particular tools and techniques to get things done. And to do that, what we're going to do is take you through kind of six major steps. So the first three will be in defining the project. And to define the project, you need to be able to know what it is that you really want to achieve, be able to know what you need to do to achieve those things, and then be able to know kind of your strategy and tactics about how you will go about doing them. Then once you've clearly defined the project, what we'll look at is how you manage it through to kind of completion. So what are the mindsets that you need to adopt when you're managing projects? What are the approaches that you can use? And what are some of the tools and technology that will help you do it effectively? So what I'm going to start off with is defining the project. And here, what we're going to look at is using a particular method for defining projects. And that method is called the V2MOM method. Now, this has been developed by a big technology organization called Salesforce and adopted by lots of other kind of companies and public sector organizations kind of across the globe. And it's a method I use with my clients quite regularly. But basically, what you use are kind of a technique for setting your vision, some techniques for setting your values, the methods, the obstacles, and the measures for your project. Now, what that actually means, we'll talk through. So we'll start with the vision. So when you start any project, you need to be really clear about what you want to achieve. So I've got two examples here. So I've got Sarah, who's a activities officer. For her in her campaign, she really wants to be the activities officer, but the reason and the motivation, which is also really important to be able to think through, is that for her, an activities officer is a step towards a future careers in organising large events. Whereas we've got Alex, who's actually, his campaign is all about wanting to raise the profile of the issue of student mental health and getting more on-campus support. So that's what he wants to achieve. It's not necessarily even that he will get the position that he wants. It's all about raising the profile of this issue. Now, when I've set visions for clients in the past, for example, I've just been working with a housing association who build social and affordable housing, who wanted to be more sustainable. And with them, we looked at setting a vision which was all about making sure that all of their homes were kind of net zero. So in terms of the kind of their impact on the environment, that they were at that net zero level. Now, what was then really important was to start to look at the values piece. So in terms of what was important about how they got there. So with that client, what we said were, you should target the homes that are in worst condition first. Now, the reason we did that is because the homes that were in worst condition were normally the ones which leak heat. And because they wanted to be a housing association which help kind of the health and well-being of their customers, if they targeted the worst first for being upgraded, then they could give those people who were the worst off the best and warm homes as quickly as possible. They could have the biggest impact. So that was what was really important for them. But in the case of these elections, for Sarah, though she wants to be the activities officer and that's where she wants to get to, she wants to do it in a very democratic way. So for her, what's really important is that it's not becoming an activities officer who says, this is kind of what we're going to do and this is the plan. She wants to engage with other people and understand their priorities and perspectives and be less directive. And for Alex, what's really important here is that they want to make sure that all of their thinking around student mental health is based on research. It's not just that they're kind of broadly supportive of student mental health. They want to do it in a well-informed way. One last example around visions and values could be around doing your dissertation. So for example, your vision might be, I want to get a first in my dissertation. But what might be important about how you get there in terms of your values is you don't want to get a first while kind of impacting your other module grades. So it has to be that you're able to get a first while you're maintaining your other modules to the same standard. It may also be that you want to get a first, but also not in a way that will detriment your social life. It's thinking about those things, about what you want to achieve, but also kind of what is important about how you get there is really important up front. Once you've got that clearly in your head, what we look at are these kind of three pieces around methods, obstacles, and measures. And methods is all about the kind of the steps that you'll take and the kind of the way that you will achieve your vision. And a good way to think about this, particularly in the election context, is to think about the message in your audience. So in order to get either votes, if you want to win the election, or to raise profile, like Alex does, what you really need are some key messages, and to get those key messages to the right people. So for example, for Sarah, she thinks flat floor space for societies is a really key message for her. And she knows that she needs to get that message to the right society participants, so they see her as someone that they want to vote for. So the method that she wants to adopt is around getting time at society meetings. That's the channel she's going to use. So when you've kind of got your vision, you need to then go down a layer and go, well, how are we actually going to make this work? Think through it with message, audience, and then connect those two with your method. And that's worked as well for Alex. So here he's kind of his key message around we need in-college counsellors, and to do that, he wants to go and hit those people who are still resident within college. So for him, that's creating YouTube videos and sharing them in the college groups, because that's the right method to get that message to that audience. Okay. Cool. Now, something else that you'll need to think about in order to inform your methods is your obstacles. So what are the things that stand in your way? So for Sarah, that might be, although she wants to get time at society meetings, she knows that everyone's trying to do that with societies. They need persuading to give time within their meetings. So for her, if she kind of recognizes that obstacle, it might then tweak kind of her approach to getting time at society meetings. She might say, okay, I'm going to prioritize societies. I'm not going to try and get to all of them. I'm going to use the ones which I've got friends within who can kind of vouch for me to get there, those sorts of things. So that understanding that obstacle might then inform kind of a more refined method. For Alex, it may be that people are oversaturated by video content during the campaign. So that might kind of change his thinking about his method. And maybe that he tries to share videos at the kind of the earliest point he can. It might be that actually he focuses on the quality of content, because that might tackle the oversaturation problem. But being clear on your obstacles can really help you refine your methods to the right place. And then finally, what I kind of say whenever we're defining projects is almost the most important step is defining your measures. So how are you going to know you're succeeding? How are you going to be able to ask a question of yourself as you go through of, actually, are we doing the right things? Is this actually having the impact that we want? So for Sarah, she might have some quick little test in terms of, she wants to be able to get to speak to 30 societies and have over 130 people who have committed to voting for her. That could be her test or her measure. And she can clearly go, well, I've spoken to 10 societies. I've only got 40 people who've said they'll vote for me. So therefore, she's not actually getting to where she needs to be. Similarly, for Alex, if his piece is all right, kind of building profile of student on-campus mental health support, a quick test might be for him, oh, I've got 100 signatures on a petition. So again, if he's falling short of that, he's really clear of kind of where he is towards where he needs to be. So for you, as you think through kind of, be it your election campaign or be it a different project, have real clear measures that you can go, okay, I am being successful, or I'm not being successful, or I need to rethink what I do. Just going to pause there. Anyone got any questions at this point? No, I think we're okay. Please do just come off mute and shout if you do. So once we've got the project kind of thought through at this level, we know kind of what our vision is. We know what's important about how we get there and our values. We've got our methods, obstacles, and measures. We need to start plugging it into a plan. And the way to do that is to start with prioritizing at a high level. The biggest challenge that I have with clients that I work with is they want to do everything. They're trying to do everything at once, and it just doesn't work because you have limited capacity to spend on things. And it ends up that you're trying to spin too many plates at once and they all fall down. So useful framework for you to think about is a framework called Moscow. And what Moscow tries to get you to do is to think about the things that you must do, things that you should do, things that you could do, and things that you'll definitely not do, that you won't do. So if you think about what are the things that are going to be most impactful, that are going to get you closest to your vision, that are going to hit your measures, then plug them in and think about, well, what are the things that I definitely must do? So for Alex, that is that he must create a mental health video campaign. That's something that he's kind of committing to, something that he must do. Once you've got that idea of the things that you must do, always break things down into the smallest manageable kind of step that you can. Now, the reason why I always tell clients you've got to break things down, you got to make things small, is because of the psychology around it, and because the kind of proven psychology around it is if you break things down as small as possible, you create momentum. If you have a massive task and you haven't broken it down, it becomes overwhelming. But if you break things down into small little things that you can tick off and tick off and tick off, it creates real momentum. So, for example, the sort of level that I'd be talking about here is for Alex, if he wants to create a mental health video campaign, one of the key kind of parts of that might be creating some video content. We'll break that down even further. So I'm going to make this specific video on available mental health resources on campus. I'm going to talk about Open Door. I'm going to talk about college tutors in this video. So it's a little small thing. And then the other small thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask 20 of my friends to share the video. And again, this is starting to build momentum if you do those things, and starts to kind of to spiral and spinball from there. So break your plan down into manageable tasks. And then once you have your tasks, there's two aspects that are always really important. So who's going to own them? So is it going to be something that you do? Is it going to be something that your friends do? Are you going to ask a family member to help you out? But who's going to own the task, and when does it need to be done? So what is the timing? What is dependent on it? So are there other tasks that can't be done before this happens? This is really key as well. So you need to get that timing right. So once you've done this, so you've kind of gone through the V2 MOM exercise, and then you've prioritized your work, you've broken it down into manageable tasks, and you've plugged it into a plan with a clear owner and timing, you're kind of basically ready to go. So you've got this idea of what the project looks like. So what I'm going to move on to next is actually managing the project. So what are the kind of the elements that you need in place to deliver a project effectively? Now, what I'm going to start with is kind of what the right mindsets are. So kind of how you need to approach project management. What I'd love if you guys are willing to do it is if you could kind of in the chat maybe add some of your thoughts as we go through this about what you think the right mindsets of a project manager are as we go. Because for me, the first big piece around right mindsets is you have to be flexible. Now, I've just talked you through how you define a project, and the key kind of message there is you need to constantly redefine things. Things are going to change. Particularly as you go through an election campaign, things will look very different on day 5 than they did on that first day, because you'll have huge amounts more information. And the worst thing that you can possibly do is stick rigidly to your original plan. You need to be flexible and adapt as things change, and welcome that, and not and be comfortable with things shifting. The next one, which I think is really important for project managers, is you need to test and learn. So, for example, if you're putting together a big video piece, go and drop a little storyboard, test it with someone, say, this is what I'm thinking for the video. What do you think? Are those good messages? When you put the video together and you've got it in place, test it with your friends. Go, actually, did I come across right here? Is this kind of the going in the right way I want it? And then you send it out. So you're getting feedback early and often, rather than waiting until you've got a video together, you put it out, and then it's maybe not going down as well as possible. So make sure that you're really open to getting some feedback early and often. The third one, I think this is a really, really key one, is being compassionate. So all of you are kind of students. That's your primary kind of occupation of your time. You need to focus on your degree if you're going through an election campaign, as well as trying to be successful in your campaign. You need to be kind to yourself in terms of getting the right amount of sleep, the right food, the right amount of exercise. And you also need to be compassionate to the people around you who might be helping you, because they're all volunteering. It's so important to be kind to yourselves and others. And this just isn't just true in the kind of the context of the election campaign. If you're running your dissertation as your project, It's the same rules apply. You need to be kind to yourself, get the right stuff in there. And I do it with my client teams all the time, where you kind of go, we're not going to work till 10 o'clock every evening. We are not going to, we're going to give ourselves time to go for walks at lunchtime because we're stuck to laptops all day. It's so important to have this kind of element of compassion in what you do and how you manage projects. Second to lastly, you've got to be proactive. So you've got to be looking ahead at all times. It's very easy to get sucked into what are you doing that day and what are you doing kind of immediately, but you always need to be thinking ahead about, well, what is coming up on the horizon and what might you need to kind of to change to or do to make sure you're ready for the next thing that's happening. And then finally, you need to be transparent. So you need to make sure that if other people are helping you or you're working with a team and you're leading that team and managing it, that you're giving real clear simple direction where direction's needed. So if you're asking someone to put together an Instagram page for you, you're saying, I need it it to meet these criteria. I need it to have no more than 6 photos on there that are really key. I need it to have this sort of title, which kind of has the key messages in it. I need it to link off to here. So you're giving really clear requirements in your role as project management, and you're saying why. And this point links a lot to that test and learn piece. So if people go, actually, that's not quite right, or I would do it a different way, be open to that. But make sure that when you're saying things, that you're giving really real clarity about what you want them to do and kind of why you want them to do it. So these are my kind of key mindsets for project management. And I can't see the chat, but I don't know if anyone's added any into the chat about what their keys are. No. Okay, maybe not. No worries. What we'll do is keep going. So once we've got that mindset in place, once we've got our brain in the right space, then we need to look at the approach. And these are the more of the kind of the tangible things that you need to do. First of all, agree your team, particularly in election campaigns. Now, this year is obviously a bit different in terms of things that we're going to be a lot more focused on virtual engagement, but know who could help you, and particularly what is it they can help you with, and how much time are they going to commit to. Now, to the point I've just made about compassion, understand that might change. They may not have the time that they first committed to. They're not paid employees, but it just make sure that you've got a clear idea of who your team is. Secondly, once you've got that team in place, I'd make sure you've clear touch points for your team. So all the time, kind of through your project, you're having a daily call at 9 a.m. where you're going to go through what you want people to do that day, and kind of hearing what help they need or what support they might need, and making sure that they're progressing they're progressing the way they need to be, or if they might need some more help to make that progress. Thirdly, in terms of your approach, make sure you communicate your plan with your team so that they understand where your head's at, what it is, the direction that you're taking them in, and make sure you're getting their feedback to improve it. Because if you ask people for help with shaping your plan, it gives them a sense of ownership of the plan. It helps them be wedded to the success of it. So it's really important that you share your plan, so that they can see it. And then lastly, I kind of think this is one of the most important thing, is put in time with your team, or if you've not got a team, that's also okay, with yourself, to do some real reflection kind of throughout the course of your project. So if it's a 2-week election, maybe kind of halfway through week 1, you want to kind of have a 30-minute pause to just go, actually, is my plan working right? Is there anything else I should do differently? And to think through. And if you do have a team that you're working with, ask them their opinions. Well, what do we need to do more of? And all the while, be reflecting back to that vision that you set before. Are we on track to get to where we need to be? How are we doing against our measures? And then if you're not on the right track, change it up. Think about how you need to do things differently. Okay. Cool. So also in the approach bit, there's kind of the big elephant in the room that we haven't talked about yet is plans. So what is a good plan? What do plans look like? Come in many different forms, right? So you may have come across Gantt charts in your courses or in some work experience that you've done. But a Gantt chart is one way of kind of visualizing a plan. It's really good because in terms of representing a project schedule, so if there are clear kind of steps to how you'll complete a project, works really well. And because it's very good at representing sequences and dependencies between various tasks or activities. Simple checklist is absolutely a way of representing a plan, particularly for quite basic projects. A checklist works as good as anything. But what I would always advocate for is using Kanbans. So Kanbans were introduced in Japanese car manufacture in the 90s, but they're now used kind of world over for kind of quite complex projects where you are kind of trying to collaborate with various others, and you kind of are trying to represent where various tasks are and the progress that you've made against them. Now, this is my preference. I always try and work in kind of with Kanban boards with my teams. I'm going to show you one in a second, but I think it's really effective, particularly for collaborative working, because it is a bit more flexible than a Gantt chart, for example, and gives you a bit more of a range of things that you can do than a simple checklist. Cool. But once you have agreed on what sort of plan you want, and I would suggest you do kind of a bit of research around Gantt, checklist, Kanban, and other various types of plans to make sure it's something that you're kind of comfortable with. You also don't need to use kind of technology at all. You might want to use pen and paper, send a picture around to your friends if that works. But for me, I always use technology to support these things because my handwriting is the equivalent of an orangutan's. It's pretty awful. But yeah, once you've kind of said this is the sort of plan I want to do or to use, then think about if you will use technology. Now, when you're trying to choose any technology for anything at all, I always get clients to think around these three things. So first of all, which tools are available that meet your requirements? Now, requirements is a fancy word for stuff you need to do or stuff you want to be able to do. So when you're building a plan, do you need to be able to share it easily with your friends and they then be able to say live updates? Do you need to be able to attach things to your plan? So files and images and docs, those sorts of things. So think about, well, what are your requirements? So because that'll help you judge whether technology is feasible for your project. I'd also think about the kind of desirability aspect. So what do people want to use? So normally that is things that they use already. So if you're using, trying to do plans, do people use the technology they already work with? If you're thinking about how you communicate, do they already use WhatsApp or do you use Facebook Messenger? Do they use the Instagram DMs, whatever? So think about what people want to use, and kind of and a big part of that is what they already use and what they're comfortable with. And finally, what's cost effective? Now, this is particularly important for you guys, right? Students, I'm sure money's not particularly flush. So think about kind of what is cost effective. And now this is kind of a model that I use with clients all the time when they're thinking about the right technology, is think about those three things, and that if all those things are in balance, then you're in the money. You're hitting that sweet spot. So what I wanted to show you was Trello. So I'm not being paid by Trello. This is not, I don't have a hashtag ad next to any of this, but I love Trello. It is an absolute savior for me because it's just a great way of representing plans. What I want to show you was how you could use Trello for an election campaign. So I think everyone should be able to see this, but if we talked earlier about Kanbans. So simple thing about Kanbans is having basically lists of statuses. So I've got my backlog, my to-do list. I've got my bits that are in progress, and I've got the things that are done. Now, a couple of features I really like about Trello. First of all, click on a card. I can add people to the card. So I can add members here. Now, if we go back to what we talked about at the very start, or quite close to the start, we talked about you need to be able to make sure that every task has an owner. So that's what I've got here. I can say that I'm going to be owning this task. That's mine. What I also like is the ability to say when I need to complete it. So I've got a due date. So I'm going to click on this due date, and I've got that. And now I'll get updates. So I'll now get email and kind of text push notifications where if you've got the app on your mobile for when stuff's due. So that's really helpful as well. What other stuff that's quite good? You've got checklists, so you can create subtasks, sub checklists to break things down even smaller. And you've also got labels, so you can visually say what are the different sorts of things that kind of link various kind of tasks together. So I've got society engagements. So I'm going to do this things to actually go and talk to societies. I've got this stuff, which is more about social media engagement as well. And finally, so just quite good is you can build attachments. So you can link out from Trello to various stuff, be it YouTube, anything else. So you can keep all your useful resources there. And you, as I say, you can add all your team members to the board. Just invite them and get them in there. So for me, Trello's a really effective tool for kind of documenting plans and sharing them with your team. Okay, last thing then around tools and technology. Just around the kind of, I guess the two key technologies I see for most projects are how you're going to kind of document your plan, and then secondly, how are you going to communicate and collaborate? So how are you going to work on stuff together and talk to it with your team? So are you going to use WhatsApp? Are you going to use Teams? Have you got Teams in the Microsoft suite? Or are you going to use Google Suite? Have you got Google Drive? Can you share things? Can you do things through Google to talk to each other? And I think kind of if you're going for your election campaign, these are just things that you should agree up front with your team. Look, we're going to have a plan on Trello. Keep an eye on it. We're going to talk through WhatsApp, and we're going to share stuff through Google Drive. But just be really, really clear on the technology that you're going to use. Cool. So that's kind of the end of what I had for you. I guess if we just go back to the start for a sec. So what I've hopefully laid out for you is some key kind of techniques and tools you can use to define your project, and then to manage your project as you go through, kind of covering those 6 key aspects.